All right, Smoke and Poetry podcast is back. We met at Mercury Cafe at a poetry slam. Do you like poetry slams, Arthur?
Kind of host one. So
Yeah.
He hates
kind
it.
of gotta like it. Exactly.
Yeah, it's the worst.
I found Bailey, the poet, at Mercury Cafe in Denver, which was awesome. And thanks for coming on.
Of course, thanks for having me.
And thank you, Arthur, for coming back to help with the interview.
Always.
And for shouting out all the questions in the last episode, which was great. But Bailey, so what are you doing? What kind of poet are you?
I am but a citizen of the world, I guess.
I like that.
Just quoting some Diogenes.
Okay.
I would say that I wouldn't put a definitive type of poet on myself. I'm a spoken word poet. I compete in some slams. Yeah, I think I'm just an artist of my own accord.
That's deep.
So how long have you been doing this poetry gig?
So I get that question actually a lot. And followed up by why you write, which is kind of an in-depth question, especially in passing.
Yeah, I won't do that.
Yeah, right? Why would you do that at an interview? But a lot of my writing in general just comes from not always feeling like I was in a space to express myself any other kind of way. And it has always been sort of like almost like a coping mechanism for me. And I didn't actually realize that I was good at it until I went to the Mercury.
Nice.
I won my first slam in high school, but I was told it wasn't a slam, and then it was a slam, and then I won.
You're like, I still won.
I still won, but I think the Mercury Cafe has given me a lot of push to continue to do things. But yeah, I would say that's the reason that I write, the kind of poet I am.
And how much have you written? Like kind of material, and what are you going to be making?
Well, I don't want to give too many hints away until it's physically in my hands, but I'm definitely working on a project. I usually write about 1 to 2 poems a week.
Really?
This week I've written 3. A lot of the time, after I write an idea down, it's just editing and editing and editing until it's perfect. At least in my own opinion, perfect. But my struggle with perfection is that I've also found that contradictory, I don't like perfection. It worked for E.E. Cummings, so if it works for E.E. Cummings, it's going to work for me. I'm trying to remove myself from the idea of perfection because it's in some sense unattainable.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm more and more settling into my style, which is more of like a stream of consciousness mixed with. So it started out with me doing a lot of emotional purging.
Yeah.
But I'm finding that when I'm writing and I'm performing it on stage, that I've been told so many times that it's touched other people in a way. I forget who's saying the song, but Killing Me Softly.
Yeah.
It's like that.
Bird of flag.
Yeah, and I realized very quickly that it's not about me anymore.
Yeah.
I'm writing because I don't want to just tell you that you're beautiful. Here's why I had to find out that I was.
Yeah.
And it's usually either a beautiful love story or it's rough. And I would like to think about my poetry as more of a punch than a slap in the face, because it forces you to recognize these things in yourself and relate. I feel like it's really easy to feel very much on your own island. We all kind of feel like we're on our own island, and I want to help other people feel connected. And that's sort of the core of why I write on top of that.
No, I like that. That's a great segue as far as, sharing your poetry with other people.
Yeah.
How do you equate writing personal stuff that you just want to keep for you versus stuff that you want to share with other people?
Time and convincing myself to do it.
I like that.
Because like I just said, it's not about me anymore.
Yeah.
There's so many people I know who I've talked about my own issues with, who are like, I wish I would have known someone or read something like this when I was younger going through it, because I feel like I would have felt like I wasn't on my own. So anytime I write something that's super personal now, I'm more compelled to share it than not, because who knows who it could help.
Yeah. And I know some poets, they put what they identify. Their women's struggles or race struggles or sexual orientation, different struggles that people go through. When you write, what struggles do you express that you personally go through in your work that you share?
I was a child of a very turbulent environment, and then I was also queer, and that was not a very easy thing for me to come out and talk about openly because of societal pressures that were put on, my parents and the generation before them, like the fear-based mindset that if you expressed yourself, you could face scrutiny.
Yeah.
And that's what I lived in for a very long time, very long number of years, which is kind of segueing into the kind of poetry that I'm going to read for you guys. There's a lot of it that is having to do with body dysmorphia. I don't know if you guys ever heard of almond moms?
No.
I recently heard this coined term, and I've never felt so connected to it ever. It's basically the byproduct of our terrible diet culture in the early 2000s. It's usually parents who are so indoctrinated by diet culture that they kind of force it upon their kids, even unknowingly. And it causes body dysmorphia issues, it causes eating disorders. That's sort of toxic mindset around it. I mean, there's a difference between dieting and living a healthy lifestyle and then taking it to an extreme where it's fundamentally terrible for your health.
Yeah.
And your mental health.
Yes.
So yeah.
And it's amazing the amount of so-called positive things that become toxic, that become weaponized. I feel like in the last 5 years, people have weaponized, mental health, as a form of, like, hey, I want to get my way, so I'm just going to say you're toxic, you're a narcissist, or whatever. And that's the narrative that society has gone with. Now, you spoke on body issues and struggling with that. I know Mike has said several times this is one of the things that he suffered and had to deal with.
I am glad you brought it up because I've been doing it in open mics. I think is where I've been talking about it. It's probably the first time it's been on the show. Actually, I'm glad we're talking about it though. I'm glad you brought it up because it is absolutely something I suffer with. Even
that's amazing. I'm not amazing.
I feel ugly all the time. I really do.
Yeah.
I feel I always like, oh well, I got a bump here, or I got whatever, and and it does cause huge problems with relationships and other things.
Yeah.
And that's something people don't talk about as far as men dealing with it.
They do.
And I think
they
we
talk
are
about,
looking
like,
at the file slice.
Wait, what? Okay. People don't talk about that enough in society as far as men dealing with body issues. They talk about it, and this is why I don't like the Kardashians, because they teach not just women but men, if you don't like something about your body, go get surgery, it'll get fixed. And a lot of people aren't taught to be comfortable with who they are. If you are skinny, if you're fat, whatever the case may be, just be happy with who you are. Yeah, there's things we all want to work on, but we're not taught to first love ourselves and love the physical shell that we're in. We're taught something's wrong.
Meat suit.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's more important is we're not one-dimensional beings.
Yeah.
We're complex in so many other ways. Like, how you look is the least interesting thing about you. And I wish that was a narrative that I was indoctrinated with first instead of all of this toxicity that exists.
Yeah.
It's insane. Any poems we want to get to maybe about like any of these kind of subjects?
I know a couple by heart that I've competed with.
Hey.
But actually,
You can show off whatever you would like, but whatever the world can see.
This is one that I finished actually today. I put the final touches on, and it's called Starving for Approval. In the beginning, there was a scale. God rest your soul if you tip it. Should have been the creation of the cosmos, but not for all. Atoms subtract the calorie content of your worth. Pray it's just baby weight. Hope it's just broken, or the hands of fate will point you in the direction of your weak. For those with healthy beginnings, it was most likely water, amoebas, the moon pulling the tide. Some of us, our mothers, were almond moms. Not free-spirited like granola. Picks through the mix of the trail, weeds past the chocolate. Maybe then we'd be worthy of blending in. Fit the confines of a tight toxic mold, maybe if we were 10 pounds lighter, we could float above disapproval at eye level, become flourishing fruit pretty enough to be picked. Pick me, please. The pick me comes from a family tree of other unhealthy mindsets, like unworthiness and self-worthing. I starved from only eating a banana each morning. My measuring cup of grains got smaller and smaller, but at least I was 98 pounds and not an ounce over. At least I was fed compliments. Breadcrumbs I could indulge in without guilt. I could fit in a string bikini. Extra small was the goalpost I made it to, but far too weak for a victory lap. Ask me if I was happy. Asked me if I loved myself. I'd regurgitate. Nothing tastes as good as skinny feels, like the last meal I had. Truthfully, it felt like a sore throat and a struggling heart. A moment on the lips, a lifetime on the hips. Perhaps that's where my stretch marks came from. A blowout match between trauma and finally nourishing myself, fighting for a place to live, stored together in disharmony. I found harmony in not giving a shit. I found salvation in not starving for approval. I am my ancestors' cries in the night come true, and I hope you give up weeding past the chocolate and finally see the beauty in you.
That is.
I love that. What was that line? Above disapproval at eye level?
Yeah.
That you had so many like one-liners in there that just hit. They hit because there was so much truth in there, and I'm just like, I think everybody can relate to that because it's like, yeah, skinny is the goal. Are you happy?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like you get skinny, you get to this ideal weight. Now what?
And it's almost sort of a identifier that even if you do get that tiny, you still feel like you're
big.
The same. It's not a matter of the weight, it's a matter of your perception of yourself. And that is a very indignant cry for help.
I think so many of us in society, when we always think about goals and things we want to achieve, one we never ever think about is happiness.
Yeah.
And that should really be the big goal.
Because
right?
a lot of people look for outside validation for happiness. They're like, oh, I'm dating you. You should make me happy. Oh, I married you. You should make me happy. Oh, you're my kids. You should make me happy. You're my friend. You should make me happy. And people are looking for all these outside sources to make them happy. But what are they doing for themselves? People can influence that happiness if you allow them. But what are they doing to make themselves happy outside of seeking outside validation of, hey, I'm dating you. Why aren't you making me happy?
Yeah.
That's your job. Make me happy.
And you're making two people miserable.
I have a question from the peanut gallery.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you think that extends to artists and their audiences? Like that external validation that we ask, does the audience make us happy? Does the people who are listening to us perform make us happy? Do you think that's part of it?
That's a good question. And I know performers that are singers, poets, comedians, that if they don't get that immediate instant gratification of, yeah, you're the best, I love you, they're like, I'm never going to this venue again. They feel comfortable at, hey, I went to this bar over here to the open mic or perform. They love me there. But if I go across the street, I don't get the same response, so I'm not going to go there because I'm not getting that, what do you call it, morphines? Endorphins. They're not getting those.
We don't need any of that.
That's a different thing.
Okay, they're not getting that across the
You get
street.
your morphines from the guy in the parking lot.
Oh, okay. I knew we were going to break bad after this
Hit him up on
episode.
Craigslist.
Exactly. But they will not go across the street because they're not getting that instant gratification. They're not getting that, we love you. So they're like, I'm not going over there. Or I'm not going down the street. I'm not going over there. They're not getting that. So, yes, they're going to stick to performing here because they love me there. They accept me. They want that gratification. They're not doing it to share their love for the craft, whether it's singing, comedy, poetry. They're not doing it for that. They're doing it because they want to feel good in that moment. I need you to make me feel pretty. That same mentality. Good question.
I'm from an artist perspective.
Follow up, do you think that's an inherently bad thing?
Wait, hold on. Let her answer that.
Yeah. Oh,
and
I'm
respond
sorry.
to that first.
Yeah,
You're
let's
good.
give Bailey a chance to talk since you're the guest.
I think that a poet and how the audience responds to them is really a matter of, it could just be the audience, it could be you, but how are you internalizing it? Because when you lose a slam, what you're actually doing is learning from those mistakes. When you win, there's very little you actually learn. So if the audience is giving you negative feedback, is it because you said something that was offensive? Maybe you should work on what you're saying and maybe have other people like feel it out before you present it. There's things that you could take from it, and there's things that you should leave alone. And I think that the one takeaway is, no matter what, as long as you are performing from the heart and you're authentic, you're a good poet.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks.
That's true. What was the second part of that question?
Do you think that need for validation is inherently good or bad?
No, I don't think that good or bad are, definitively like beneficial in that.
Right.
I feel like, you're gonna deal with yourself in whatever pace that is, and if you need it to be validated from an audience, it's better than a toxic relationship.
That's true. well.
I mean, that's like the bare minimum.
You do this long enough, that relationship can also become toxic.
Yeah, I mean, any unhealthy habit you begin can form into a worse one.
Yeah.
I think that just you need to always be working on yourself. Is really the answer to that.
So is performing in a way therapy for you?
Yes. I actually wrote a poem called Therapy.
Okay.
Ooh. Can we hear that?
Care to share?
Yeah. It's been a while since I performed it, but good at disassociating. Needs work on advocating. Tell me about your childhood. We've been down this road on and off. And I've done your job before. I don't want to drive this fucking car anymore. But if you promise I can cruise instead of burying my knuckles into the steering wheel, I'll tell you again. Adulthood began at 5. I was a therapist at 6. I paid taxes with my sanity. I paid alimony to my anger with the false narrative of peace. We had to separate. I'm a fast learner. I watched my dad pay child support to a person who checked boxes that said dependence, avoided us at home like love was fraudulent. Punishment, though, was always timely and never delinquent. Bled dry till there was nothing left but skin, bones, and cortisol. Maybe that's why my hands are so tiny. Evidence I was once small, goofy, silly, bowl cut bang, stolen candy, a mess in the mud. I'm looking for a way out, and maybe it's where I put my time capsule. Mother Nature turned me into a flower. Grandma has a garden and she could finally take care of me. Mommy has a brown thumb and she pulls on my petals like she hates me. It's my fault that hers never bloomed. Honey, we don't talk about that. You're a nice girl and that would hurt her feelings. Shh. Let's talk about something else. Anyways, nail polish, Polly Pockets, and Legos. Built a house with them, but it wasn't home. These walls are smooth and blank. Home is rough. It was large, but it had struggle written on the walls and on the ceilings. I count the locks on the front door. 1, 2, 3, 4. I know we live on the south side, but are these locks to keep them out or us in? Decorated very well for a prison cell. Bailey, your mom's here. My heart falls into the sole of my shoe. Maybe it will quicken my pace. No thoughts to waste, and the thoughts of the race of my beating heart I have to hide and fast. Don't talk, don't think, don't breathe. Maybe she'll leave. Good at disassociating. Needs work on advocating. Tell me more about your childhood. You see, I thought that God stopped believing in me because he saw me make potions in the bathroom sink, but the more the years go by, the more I think potions are a hop, skip, and a jump away from manifesting, and I can see the hills I want to run to. They are the tallest in the West. Who are you without me? You can't leave. You're so broken, and the only glue that exists in the universe I own, like you. My heart falls into the sole of my shoe. Give me strength to quicken my pace. If God doesn't believe in me, I must be God and do this myself. I must see through the gas thrown in my direction. Good at disassociating. Needs work on advocating. How's your adulthood? I'm here.
I love that.
May
I
I
love
say,
the whole.
I'm not a poet. I don't know jack shit about poetry. But the heart falls into the sole of your shoe thing just has like a very like cartoonish, like Tex Avery kind of.
I think we should just do the dance here. Come on, the cameraman's got to do the dance.
I was actually a big fan of Fantasia and Looney Tunes as a kid.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So I associated
see
a lot of my like internal emotions with cartoons, which is why that imagery appears I kind of did that intentionally.
That
I like that.
right, the different kind of layers that you got there. And were you sharing like from the time you were writing, or was there a process as far as sharing for you?
In what regard?
In other words, like doing the performances, because there's very much a dual aspect of the writing and the very much the performance part of like sharing of how you present it.
Oh, I mean, I went from just see at the Mercury Cafe. There's a prominent poet there who has a lot of very good acting tied into his poetry. And the first time I went to the Mercury Cafe is when I saw him perform, and I was like, I feel like I can do this. Like, I feel like I can embody my poems in the same way, and it helped like blast off my poems into characters. And that's the other thing about being a part of this community, is that you see people who inspire you, and like that you know can not assimilate to, but can kind of give you an idea of what kind of character you want to be on stage.
Yeah.
And I come from an acting background, so
you were a theater kid?
I was a theater kid. I never had a big part in any of them, but I've always loved it. I loved embodying different personas.
No, that is awesome. I'm still on that poem hit me, especially, like the disassociating.
Yeah.
You need to do more advocating. That is like so many layers to unpack in this piece, because a lot of us disassociated, we don't even know it.
Yeah.
And
I do it all the time.
Yeah. It just kind of comes part of.
In the middle of my show, maybe.
We're like,
I feel like it sometimes. Almost.
I know people that
Are you
used
guys
to.
not disassociating right now?
Oh, we're on a completely
at
different. We're on completely different.
Yeah,
planets right now.
it's all about wavelengths, and frequencies. So right now, it's like, I tell people, like, who protects you when you're hurt? Does an altar manifest? What aspect of you are you downloading to protect you from pain and hurt and sorrow? And that's the great thing about poetry, because a lot of times it's like this vessel, writes the piece to get the words out that you can't, get out.
Yeah.
You're a fucking brilliant writer.
Oh, thank you. I try.
We didn't just bring anyone down from Denver. And I do want to.
He's like, the rest of them I don't know about.
Now there was a lot of brilliant poets there, and I think I'm forgetting some of the names because I'm meeting so many amazing people. But I remember one of the hosts up in Mercury Cafe, and he was so great the way he would just talk. Mercury. Am I pronouncing it properly?
The Mercury.
Oh, the Mercury Cafe.
I don't know if I'm getting the mush mouth. I get that sometimes.
It happens.
happens.
Is that a poet thing? You get like the mush
Yeah.
mouth?
For
Yeah.
your poetry, who influences you? They don't have to be a poet, because a lot of us are influenced by painters, people we come into contact every day, family, different things. Who influences you?
People. I mean, people I actually know and meet. I have ADHD, so it's hard for me to like sit down and read a book for a long period of time, which is why finding out what poet I like was difficult. And it was easy when I started coming to the Mercury, when I saw poets I met in real life. And as I was explaining to you, there's something different about reading a poem. It's words, sentences, and feelings, but seeing them perform.
Yeah.
You get
And
that
you see where they tear up, you see where they start to choke up, you see how they're holding in laughter when they're performing, and that's what makes a poem come to life.
You know what? I want to tell a story. I'm not going to get all the
Go ahead.
specifics, but I was doing this poem, which can be really fun. It's your favorite poem. You think it's the best thing I've ever written. It is the best thing I've ever written.
Because it's petty. That's why I love it.
But there's a couple
petty.
personal. No, it's not. You're mixing up my poems now or something. But there's a couple very personal things, and I try to do it this smooth. But
Are you talking
sometimes
about I Killed the Vibe?
yes,
Yes, that's a petty ass
Well,
poem.
well,
That's
there-
a petty poem.
That's a
good,
petty
though.
ass
It's real
poem.
petty.
it is petty.
It's petty as fuck.
We
Okay.
love a diss track.
Maybe I'll take this out. I don't know. I like
That
it.
doesn't mean it's bad.
Yeah.
It's the best thing I've ever done. I thought.
It's petty. I like it.
Well, no.
You can,
The petty part of me loves that shit.
if you want
But my point was when I get to a couple parts about how I fucked some shit up,
It's
even when I'm like trying to do the whole presentation thing, I sometimes can't. Sometimes it's like, oh shit, oh not that part where I really fucked up now.
Yeah.
Go ahead and do it. Let's
no,
hear it.
no. That's a different show because this is Bailey's show and that's not my show. We're just trying to. This is Bailey's presentation. I'll do that at the at your thing.
But one of the last.
I'm gonna do it at your slam.
One of the last 3 poems, as you brought up, is people. Have you ever come across a person and you're like, I have known you before. I don't know how I know you. I don't know what I choose to believe in, but I've known this soul before.
Yeah.
And usually you think, oh, it's because they're the love of my life or they were my best friend. Have you ever come across an enemy from a past life?
Damn, dude! You are fucking brilliant!
They teach you some shit about yourself. They really do. And it's actually a poem that I wrote.
I gotta hear this.
Okay, hold on. Okay, go.
I feel like we were enemies in a past life. Not because I hate you in this one, but probably because I loved you the most before the betrayal in the last one. Your eyes lock mine once more, like the colliding of puzzle pieces. We begin to reach and stretch and dislodge our joints for a bond we were never meant to have, only to experience the shadow of what was. How pitiful. We talk in circles, walk backwards, try to move forward, but trip and fall into old patterns, leave each other with more bruises than the pavement could create. Become people we don't like. Greetings instead met silence and avoidance with an underlining tone of misunderstanding and disappointment. The misunderstanding is now understood. What did we do to each other? Why were we meant to meet again if our words never break the surface of let's start over? We attract each other like moths to a flame. I call dibs on the flame this round. How ironic that I simply wanted to warm your wings. Were we rivaling kings? Were we backstabbing friends, Brutus? Were we unfaithful lovers? Getting back at each other one more time. Perhaps that's why even the most minuscule of things penetrate beneath my skin like a horse needle. Cats and dogs, you are a hound who hunts me out of instinct while I slumber. My claws were your flesh for survival. I was your tyrannical landlord. And you were my tactless tenant. You were the symphony and I was annoyingly the loudest in the crowd. You are my favorite song intro. But I hate your chorus. Oil from the ripest olives in Italy, water from the Swiss Alps, but somehow the combination churns the stomach. I speak the only language you can't understand. I try to communicate through the stars, make a map of the constellations, but you are skeptical of the legitimacy of astrology. You don't understand why I'm so sensitive, and I can't comprehend why you are so apathetic. How can I express my genuine sorrow with fear of you using it to my detriment? The answer is I can't. I will be dragged away by my dignity and self-respect with claw marks left on the ground. Please don't follow me. Don't creep through the cracks of my home from your wasp's nest. Leave me be. I wish I could just simply flee from this, but running away perpetuates the cycle. I'm tired. I'm sick. If this is the only way you can understand me in whatever realm of consciousness we tap into together, then so be it. I forgive you for our past. And if this peace offering doesn't reach you, I hope you grasp it before we meet again in the next life. I release you into the air, little bird, even if you bite my hands as I unfold the world to you. I love you in a way I could love any being I come across for a fleeting moment, but from a respectful distance. I release you with love, my enemy from a past life. I wish to leave our animosity where it belongs.
What inspired this piece?
It's an amalgamation of every person I've ever had, I don't know if it's like a weird trauma response or whatever, but like when you come across a person and you're like, I feel like we have so much commonality that we could be friends, and whenever you try to make it work, they do something to piss you off. Or like it comes across as a miscommunication, and as I pointed out, sometimes the miscommunication is not miscommunication, it's redirection.
I like it. Let's go back to the piece you read before this one. What was it called?
The therapy?
Yes.
Yeah.
You had a line in there. I don't know. You reading this, my mind went back to that piece about being in the kitchen making potions. And
Yeah.
I'm equating alchemy and witchcraft
Yes.
to Christianity and blessings. And, well, if I was really doing this, then yes, I'm the one that's truly blessed because I was doing the thing.
Yeah, exactly. It was actually a tie between, I have a very strong Catholic background, and I love tarot. That's one of my favorite methods of breaking the ice with people is reading their tarot.
Really?
And I formed an interest in it very young, and I used to make, like, I'd grab spices from the spice cabinet and, like, go in the bathroom sink and fill it with water and then act as though I'm making potions, and that was frowned upon because it embellishes witchcraft.
Yeah.
And that's completely against Catholicism as a whole. So that's where that's from.
I like that. Yeah, I caught that in
The shame-based mentality that
popped
comes
up.
with expressing yourself against that kind of religious background.
I'm glad you brought up that word. What word? Shame.
Yeah.
Because that, I think, for many of us, at least for me, there was like this breaking point of not sharing. It's a shameful. Don't talk about certain things.
Yes.
And
I don't believe in that at all.
well, for me, there was that part, and then there was some kind of break. And it wasn't just a single break. I mean, there were different cracks over time, but at this point it's shattered.
a little bit.
Yeah.
I would say. And it's like there's kind of like a motivation to say what used to be shameful.
Yeah.
To talk
Yes.
about, and I have been doing a lot in the open mics talking about some of the abuse I suffered and some of the problems I have, and I'm kind of glad to do it on the podcast also a little bit. So I appreciate you sharing.
Wait, but on that, at the same time where we're more open to talk about some of the things that were shameful or shunned upon, there's also people that are like, okay, I get it, progressive movement, but are we oversharing at the same time?
That's a good point.
That is a good point.
Because sometimes I wonder of, is this the right time? Is this the right audience? Is this,
Because I grew up where I said, y'all are the adults, I'm the child. This is the grown people's table. I'm the child, I need to sit at the children's table. Now you have the children right there in there with the adults having those same adult conversations. Is that, I don't want to use the word good or bad, nothing like that.
Yeah.
But are people exposing children to some things before they're ready to be exposed to?
Oh, yeah.
Or do they need to be exposed to these things so they're comfortable with them?
Well, I think that there's some back and forth with that, because I think a child should stay a child for as long as is possible, because the world can be an ugly place, and it's not fair to expose them to that. That being said, especially at open mics, if I'm going to read a poem that's very explicit to some degree, I will ask in the audience if there's any kids, and then I will change it to a different poem, because it is courteous. In that element where there's kids involved, where they're absorbing so much, this is not a thing that they should be absorbing right now. I think that it is very good to express discretion in some way. If it's in any way harmful to another person, also keep that in the privacy of your own home or thoughts. There's no reason that it should hurt anybody else. What I think is not helpful is trigger warnings. I mean, it's nice to make someone aware that this should be heavy topics, but I think there was a study done that said that if you do a trigger warning, it's going to trigger someone prematurely, and they might not even be triggered by what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
because it's like, now you told me I'm going to be triggered, so I'm waiting on the trigger.
Yeah, exactly. And you're amped up from that point.
Do you think it's good to say, hey, I'm going to talk about violence or abuse or something before you do
That's
one of
exactly
those
what she's talking
poems,
about.
though, instead of using the word trigger, though,
Yeah.
to be more specific?
If you really feel like it's going to be that triggering, assess your audience.
Yeah.
That's
Like,
yeah.
we had a woman at the last slam. She did it during the open mic, and she talked about grape. And I don't want to say the word,
Yeah.
And she warned the crowd beforehand, and a couple women left the room. They were like, I can't,
Yeah.
And that's a heavy topic, especially for women in our society, and even men, it makes me uncomfortable. But for women who have been through it,
Yeah.
my little uncomfortness is nothing compared to somebody that's actually been, a victim of grape, and, some of the women came up to her that left afterwards, and they were like, I appreciate your poem. I heard it while I was outside, pieces of it, and can I hug you?
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Because I couldn't have put those in the words. And you have those moments, and it doesn't have to be something to that level where you're sharing your poetry and your plight or what you've been through, and people will come up to you and they're like, thank you.
It's a wonderful thing about our communities. We're very open, and it's always first.
Yeah.
Like, you can feel the love whether you win or lose a slam also. And that's the part of it that makes you want to come back, is that you feel like you're a part of something bigger than yourself.
And I don't know what lose a slam means. I will say this: I rarely get out of the first round. And when I went to Mercury Cafe, I had the time of my life. Actually,
It's fun.
I had more fun before the slam, because that's right, the band back.
The jam before the slam.
Oh, that was the
Oh,
best
they're
fun.
good.
I used up my good stuff there. That's my excuse. But I didn't make it out of the first round. But it didn't matter. It was so much fun, and the people were so nice, and I met you.
You met Bailey! And you brought her here,
It
you
was
fed her, And I like those conversations. That's why we're doing the Poetry Potluck, so poets can have conversations like this, where nobody's performing, people are just sitting, sharing stories.
Yeah.
We're going old school.
And one thing I think I want to talk about, like, I love all the different open mics in town. One thing that's so great about open mics is you don't have to worry that much about the performance. You can just get up there and share. I know there's some people who are trying to, practice and get. You don't have to. You can just get up there just because you just want to try something out, just want to talk. And most of the places, I think, there are some like specific comedy nights and specific such and such. But a lot of places will just let you get up there and talk, and it can be a wonderful, liberating experience to do that.
Like another one, I'm going to shout out my boy Q. He does every Monday night at the Corner Beat. He does an open mic for artists, and that's musicians, poets, whatever you do creatively. Get up on the sign up sheet, and you have your own little space to. I think it's between 5 and 10 minutes.
Nice. Now, with your poetry, do you ever create any songs, any spoken word
I
songs?
was debating it, but I'm not much of a singer.
No, I'm talking about like just with a musical background. You can have a singer come in if you want to fill in this, some space. Have you ever thought about creating a spoken word song or even a spoken word album with music?
I think that would be the next step that I do somewhere along the line. I would like to finish my mystery project.
Not the mystery project.
Not the mystery project.
Gotta
and
have
then,
one of those.
I think they were talking about potentially making poems into films, like to really give a visual representation over that. I would be very interested in doing something like that.
I know somebody that might be able to help you with that.
Well, let's not do all the business on the camera. Before let's talk about. There's at least one more you want to do. It sounds like, but also I want to talk. There's more than the poet life.
Dear Mercury Retrograde, I'm not gonna hit you. I just want to talk. Come here. It's fine. Seriously, it's fine. Is it fair that you simply get to regress while we have to move forward? Being the planet of the communication, the way in which you've moved this week has been the same as a messy and neglectful roommate that settles all important arguments through text, and I'm slightly dyslexic. Dear Mercury Retrograde, I feel like my body has been taken over by a reckless puppeteer, and I hate my butthole being touched. I've been transported to a parallel universe where there's suddenly wasps in my house. I killed 10 wasps in my house today, the source of which was from a window screen that was bent just enough to let them fly in. Did you know that window screens are now something that you have to make by hand? I figured that out at Home Depot while also realizing I left my roommate's dog outside. That was amazing for my nerves. Dear Mercury Retrograde, the $40 speeding ticket for only doing 10 over was a nice touch. My keys getting locked into my car and then calling AAA to find out that my insurance lapsed last week was adorable. I'm assuming the goal was to drive me nuts, not to my final destination. Where's my driver's license, by the way? Dear Mercury Retrograde, is hysterical crying a love language of yours? If so, I think you might be a sadist and like the least hot Disney villain kind of way. I shat myself on Wednesday when you went direct. No, my package from Amazon getting here sooner than expected doesn't make up for it. I just wanted to enjoy my taco truck burrito. But it seems like this poem was destined to be the only solid thing I would produce for 72 hours. I know. It's supposed to be something that we all go through as a collective, but if you knew how many poop jokes I've had to make about myself this week, you'd feel personally victimized by Regina George too. Dear Mercury retrograde, who gifted you my voodoo doll? I now believe in black magic. My Mercury is in Libra and a bitch just wants some damn stability. Like what I would love to happen to my hormones because acne as an adult is just uncomfortable and inexpensive. Dear Mercury retrograde, you better be done. Because I'm trying to figure out how to end this poem and I can't think of anything decent. I blame you. Sincerely, Bailey. P.S. What's the opposite of thoughts and prayers?
Woo! Let's just sit down and keep recording. By the way, well, we talked a little bit about who you are besides a poet. Because
I like that.
we're just that was so great. There's so much amazing stuff. I want people to know a little more about you. What else is there about you besides your writing? What else do you do with your time?
I love to go to concerts. I'm really heavily into EDM. I'm a cosmetologist. I work in a barbershop, and then I'm also in a full-time salon. I'm a huge dork. I love adventure. I like to do hikes and stuff.
Ooh.
That's really short way.
And anything about? Do you want people to find you, like where, like as far as following your poetry or anything else you might want to be selling out there?
So Mystery Project is still in the works, but I have an Instagram that I share. I'm gonna start sharing like different places that I go to as well. You can always find me at the Mercury, Fridays and then Sundays occasionally. Corner Beat, and then there is an open mic that happens once a month at Ophelia's that I like to go to. It's a great showcase for all kinds of artists too.
Nice.
But yeah, I can also leave you my handle.
Oh, we'll put that on the down here and have it all typed in there, shiny and flashy. But speaking of the promos, we met at Mercury Cafe. I've only made it up there once because I don't go up to Denver too often. But that was so much fun.
Yeah.
And I forget the names of some of the people, but the band, it was Seth and Art Compost. Is that what's the band's name? They were amazing.
Yeah, I don't recall off the top of my head, but
It was something like that. That was, at least that's the Facebook. That's where I can follow them, or you can all follow them now. And they were really great. And
also, a good friend of mine who's also a co-host at the Mercury does clothing optional open mic every full moon. It's Emily. She does that. That's fun.
I saw Andrew shake his head like, maybe that's the place to go. I'm not sure I'm ready for that. I'm a little.
I only do clothing optional comedy for money.
Yeah, I mean.
Shout out to OnlyFans.
Well, if you want
to OnlyFans.
Well, I'm not sure. We'll think about that one.
I'm thinking about the smells at a clothing optional open mic.
The smells?
Yes.
But anyway,
Everybody don't take showers.
That's why I only do it for money.
Well, check out Mercury Cafe's Poetry Slam, and maybe we can get you to come down here more often.
Yeah,
and come
I'd
hang
love
out at
to.
the place where we met and where Arthur does poetry slams, and also has amazing open mics on Tuesdays. Our place, the Ultra Flat
Black.
Yes.
Gallery.
And we got slams. Tell them.
The 30th. It's on the 30th.
I know when the poetry slam is.
Get him nervous.
Last third.
We did this last time.
The last
This is the
Saturday.
clip I just put out, you know. I
The
literally
last
put this
Saturday
clip.
of each month is the Colorado Springs Poetry Slam. You can find it at coloradospringspoetryslam.com. There's a Facebook group, also called Colorado Springs Poetry Slam. I'm the host, Art the Poet. We have DJ Squirrel there. We have the best poets in the city, in the state, converging every last Saturday. September 30th is the next one. The October 28th Slam, we're going to have a costume contest. I'm going to dress up as Deadpool. It's going to be a good time. 21 and older. If you're 18, you can't come in, sadly. We do have events coming up. We have poetry pop-ups that'll be converging around the city pretty soon. We're doing a poetry anthology. It's a lot of things in the work. Find out more at ColoradoSpringsPoetrySlam.com. I'm Arthur Poet. You can follow me at Arthur Writes Stuff and on IG. And I'm going to follow Bailey on IG.
Yeah.
It'll all be shiny.
What is your IG?
It's Occam's_razor96, I believe. Let me just triple check that actually.
We'll put it down here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It says Bailey does hair. I'm going to have her do something
it's Occam's-
with my hair before the next slam. I don't know. I might have a
I don't know if I can get
ponytail.
through that. It seems like a lot.
There's a
Just
lot.
draw on his hair.
Yeah. Shine at me.
This guy's going to be, he said he's going to be the Riddler for the,
That's a great
Well, I'm not
song.
100%.
Slam.
Well, maybe.
not 100%?
Maybe. Something. Well, we're going. Well, yes, we also got to shout out the Green Line Grill because Arthur and I and Andrew and others, Andrew who comes and helps us in the middle. That's Andrew.
They can see me
I
in the
can
mirror.
see you.
They really can.
If,
Actually,
yeah, Jonathan and I were doing bits back here during probably a poem we shouldn't have been doing bits back here during.
That's
Sorry.
actually.
I just realized
Some
that. How
comic
about?
relief is nice.
Well, we're gonna have a great show on October 30, and we hope you come down to
Yeah,
Colorado Springs.
she's
Hang
been
out,
invited.
All these places.
Warms my heart. I would love to go.
And is there anything else we need to talk about before we close out for the day?
I'll leave you to that.
Oh, the pie
Give
bar.
us money to do art.
Pie bar.
Give us money to do art.
We're not gonna
Yeah.
say no.
Yeah, we don't say no. Feed the poet.
All right.
Well, thank you to the pie bar.
Yeah. Thank you to the pie bar.
The food. How was your food?
It was phenomenal.
Yours is.
And at the 314 Pie Bar. At the name of it? The
Yes.
314
PI.
Pie
PI.
Bar. They got savory and sweet pies.
Which is the answer to Pies 3.
That is?
Yeah.
I knew that. I can math.
I
little bit.
believe in you.
Come
You
check
believe in
us
my
out.
ability to math?
I was only just registering that. That's why. I was like, wait,
I can't math.
that doesn't address? No.
This is an awkward closeout for the day. But nonetheless, I guess we will close out.
Thank you for Bailey
See you next
for coming
time.
down, being a part of this.
Thank you to everyone in the world.
Yeah, thank you to
Make
everyone.
it simple.
Thank you to everyone in the world.
That gets it out of the way.
Yeah.
See you next time.